would you say that it is required to rehydrate freeze-dried raw pet food, or would you just say that you highly recommend it?
Yeah, so here's my thing. I am a realist when it comes to people and how they're going to feed the food. So if somebody comes to me and they say, hey, I'm training a puppy right now and half of his meals are training treats, that's great. You don't need to rehydrate in that case. Ideally, you should rehydrate and let it soak. Like for me, if I'm doing it, I think the best method is to, when I feed breakfast, I rehydrate the food for dinner and just put it in the fridge so it can all soak through. But here's a great example when that didn't happen. Last night I was sick and I was like, I just need to go to bed. I can't do any of the normal chores I do before I go to bed. And I didn't do that. So when I woke up this morning, I rehydrated the food. And while I was kind of getting some other things to add to the food, it was just kind of rehydrating, and that was about a 10-minute process. And then I just fed it in the bowl. And Huckleberry, by the way, we're all French Bulldog people, so that's an interesting thing. But that just occurred to me. But Huckleberry ate everything, including the moisture as well. So I think it really fits real life and recommended. But like the other example I'll give too is if you have an animal that's used to kibble that is really struggling with the transition onto something and will eat freeze-dried food, that's so much better for that animal than eating a more processed, carb-heavy diet. So basically, my motto is don't beat yourself up and do the best you can.
That's actually, you made a very good point there that I actually didn't even think about, like when it comes to pet parents that are feeding a kibble diet and they want to transition to freeze-dried raw or raw, that freeze-dried would be a really, really great transition, especially if they're not able to latch on to the new texture of the food as well. So that's actually a very good point.
I think for all the reasons that Billy mentioned, those are great reasons to feed how you can. But for me, it's important to know your pet and know, does your dog drink water anyways? If you don't want to rehydrate it, but you know that your dog drinks a good amount of water, like they just need to get moisture. Mm-hmm. I think the easiest way to do it is to rehydrate it. But yes, if you're doing training treats the other day, you have a dog that wants the texture, that's fine. Just make sure that they have water. If they don't naturally drink water on their own, I would encourage somebody to rehydrate it with like bone broth or goat's milk or something like that. That's like enticing to get the moisture in there. We wouldn't want a dog to eat a completely freeze-dried diet and also not be a water drinker on top of that. So that's just something that I get a little, be careful about.
So basically, if a dog is going to eat freeze-dried raw food and the pet parent is not rehydrating the food, then definitely make sure that water is available to that dog basically at all times.
Yeah, and if that dog doesn't really like drinking water, like try to entice them with bone broth or just get it in there somehow.
Someone is asking, is it true that if you do not rehydrate freeze-dried raw food, that the animal can get severely dehydrated, and can it lead to constipation or urinary issues?
So that's kind of what we were talking about earlier. You just need to get moisture in some way. So if the dog is drinking a bowl of water or bone broth or goat's milk or whatever on the side and eating a dried food, the moisture is all still getting in. If you rehydrate the food, great. But if you know that your pet doesn't drink water and you can't get them to, I probably wouldn't feed a completely dry diet. Billy?
Yeah, there's essentially a huge element of doing the best you can. There is actually some data on this, that animals who eat diets that have moisture inclusively in them retain more of that moisture than animals that eat a dry diet and then drink water. But it's not like a night and day difference. I would say it's, inherently healthier to rehydrate it. But for me, I would be just doing something that is, there's always something you can find in the really high moisture part of a diet that your dog or cat's going to like, be it bone broth or goat's milk or something. And I would try to incorporate that during the meal if you can. to more mimic that natural flow of, you know, nutrients and as they're happening, you know, through the gut at the same time. But again, you know, I think it's probably more relevant for cats because I think a lot of the issues that cats have goes back to, you know, hey, my cat has kidney issues. Well, they've been eating protein that's been from dry food for their entire life, right? And yeah, that would be hard over time. So I would say in the form of a cat, make sure that you can get as much moisture as you can, or ideally rehydrate. But with a dog, if you're looking at the data, I don't think it's like, I think Kelley's right. It's not a stark enough difference where it's going to be like, you're going to have these health catastrophes if you don't do it, you know?
Thank you so much for watching this video, and if you liked it, please do make sure to give it a thumbs up, and don't forget to subscribe to this channel because it really does help with the growth of our channel.
And helping more dogs.